Hello magical souls, welcome back to the channel. For those who are new here, my name is Lydia and I am the Witch of Multi-Realms. Now before I start discussing today's topic, I would like to ask that if you enjoy the content anywhere along the way, do like, follow and subscribe to my channel and join the Multi-Realms family. I try to post once a week. Now I have not fixed down the day that I like to post. It might be a Wednesday or a Friday, but I do try to post at least once a week on topics related to spiritual awakening, spiritual growth, the kind of challenges, the kind of things you might expect, and the different conversations that might arise with regards to spiritual awakening. Now, onwards to the subject. Today we're discussing something about communication with the higher self. Something I do get a lot. I get these questions a lot. One would be, who is my higher self? And the other would be, how do I communicate with my higher self? Or how do I know that I am communicating with my higher self? Okay, first let me explain this. And I'm not sure if this might surprise you. It might not surprise some people, but this might surprise you. Your higher self is a future version of yourself. Okay, and I say future, you must understand, we are perceiving it from the three-dimensional reality. We perceive time and space in our way, in our perspective, and therefore we perceive future, right? Because we can see the past, we document the past, so we understand the past, and then we can perceive the present, of course, but we cannot perceive the future because we do not have the ability to go to the other dimensions that break time barrier, right? So we consider that future. Now then, your higher self is a version of you that exists on a dimension that is beyond three-dimensional. The higher self would be the wisest, most spiritually or soul ascended, most connected to consciousness version of yourself. And thereby, it's easy for us to perceive that your higher self is somewhere in the future because we're talking about what you are now, learning and developing and being in your spiritual awakening journey. And then as you progress, as you become more, your consciousness becomes more expanded and you release your ego, you become wiser, you have already worked through your shadows. We're talking about transcending beyond this reality and the limitations of this reality, right? Thereby, that is in the future. Again, from our perception, that is in the future, somewhere you're working towards. We do not know how far this future is, or when your higher self is communicating with you, you cannot, at least from the more basic level, understand where that future self of you is coming from, but clearly is somebody that is you with a wiser perspective, a more conscious perspective, a more aware perspective. Okay, so just know. Okay, now this whole thing about higher self, that's not all. What if I tell you, even the soul that you have in this body is not the entirety of your soul? It's a portion of your soul. Because if you were to think about, how in the future there is a version of you that is a higher self and that one can talk to you here. So that's one soul, you are one, all the same soul, but that's a portion of it, you're a portion of it. Okay, and then there can be other portions of the same soul from the one oversoul. Okay, before I lose you on the term oversoul, let me explain what is the oversoul. As much as there is a portion of your soul here, there's a portion of your soul in other realities, all that. So why are there portions, right? Because the consciousness experience different realities and different dimensions through the soul that is being born or created in the said world, right? As you are in this three-dimensional realm on Earth, in this reality. And so it would be the same for the other souls in other realities, right? Of the same of you. Thereby, the oversoul is the one that is like the headquarters, where the main soul essence, or I don't know how to call it. Maybe we can call it soul brain or the soul essence, or the headquarters of your soul is at the oversoul. The one that is very integral in your intent to come here to live this life, walk this path, experience the challenges that you do, learn the lessons that you have to learn, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you are every part of the plan of the oversoul, who is very much you. You are just a part of it, and of course you do not possess the memory of what you created to do in this life, because all that we pass through the veil of forgetfulness. That is a subject to discuss another day. But just so you know, there is an oversoul, there is a higher self, and your higher self is the one that is very close to the oversoul, because that will also be the most ascended version of yourself in the most expanded conscious level of yourself. And this brings me to the next point, which is, do you recall days when you would have, say, not be able to control your anger or frustration over a certain situation or over somebody? Maybe someone would have said something to you that is curt or a snide, and you felt, okay, this is my way to get back at that person, and then you say something just as sarcastic and cutting back to the person. And mind you, this is not any person. Let's say this person is your sibling, or maybe a parent. And when you said these sharp words back to the person, maybe at that very moment it felt really good. And after you hurt the person's feelings, maybe you take a while to calm down and you reflect upon it, and then you realize, oh, that's not my best moment. I could have done better today. That's not my best moment. So interestingly, now let me ask you, how do you think you could have had that thought to ask yourself or reflect upon lowering your ego, releasing some kind of vulnerability, admitting that it was a mistake, and then saying to yourself, that's not my best moment. And then take it one step further to admit the mistake, and then go to said person whom you hurt and apologize and admit to the person, I'm sorry, I was not my best self today. I could have done better. I'm normally not this way. Okay, so in just an incident like this is a clear sign that you have given your higher self a chance to speak to you. Because you see, again, our existence here in this very limited three-dimensional body and the surroundings that we are in, and as I have mentioned in prior episodes, we are always being challenged with limitations. And the limitations is not just the way other people behave. The limitations also includes the way we choose to behave. More often than not, though, if we are not catching ourselves and not being mindful, which is very easy to fall into, the generic instinctual mode is to protect oneself or defend oneself, right? So when we basically, it's the hurt ego, and thereby a hurt ego will want to hit back, right? So many times we might see that this happens in so many different incidences in different people's lives, whether it's somebody at work being triggered or having a conflict with a colleague or a boss. They could have just lost their perspective or not receive guidance, or like they are not connected to the guidance of their higher self, and at that very moment allow themselves to fall into the heat of the ego and unleash their anger, unleash their wrath upon whoever they feel deserves it, and then they say the worst things. When we allow ourselves to lose perspective and grip on knowing that it is inherent in all of us to have this spectrum of negative traits. And it's like the ego encourages you to let go of yourself. All right? So the higher self is the opposite of the ego. If you allow the higher self to come in, to speak to you, to communicate with you, then you would have received advice, you would have received introspection, you can start to see perspectives from other people's eyes, from the opposite person's eyes. If this is a conflict you have with one person or multiple parties, whether you are right or you're wrong, it might not even matter that much anymore. If you're able to calm yourself down and listen to your higher self, then your higher self is able to come give you the best advice. And I'm not saying your higher self is going to come in and always tell you to surrender and apologize. No, it does not work like that. Your higher self is always on your side and always has your best interest. Simply look at it this way. If your higher self is you and the best version of what you can become, clearly your higher self knows that you are right now walking in a certain part of your journey where you have to get there, like join or become the higher self. The higher self does not want to eliminate itself, right? If you think about it from the time travel perspective, right? Your higher self is there, although you cannot perceive your higher self now, like in physical reality, but your higher self could be created down the road because of the way you choose to behave and learn from this point onwards. So your higher self will always be in your interest to get you to where it is now. If you are ever curious, I have it in the previous video. I talked a lot about getting out of denial and realigning with your truth and authenticity. If you have not watched the episode, please go have a look. It's a lot of work to do with oneself in the beginning of a spiritual awakening journey, because a lot of people, I mean, this is not, of course, I'm not saying this is the same for everyone, but it is observed that majority of the people coming into their first dark night of the soul and starting to be awakened in their first major spiritual awakening, the challenge at hand is usually a lot to do with some level of denial in their reality and their inability to embrace their authenticity and face a truth that is standing in their essence, right? So that is also the reason why one of the first spiritual contact that you would have, in fact, from young, your higher self would already be there with you. It's just that you probably wouldn't know that's your higher self. You might think that's an angel. You might think, unless you are already tapped into your psychic gifts and you can see or identify who they are, you wouldn't know. And if you are spiritual since young or religious to some degree, and then you know that you are praying or talking to some higher power, but you could not identify who that is, I would say that could very often be your higher self, because once again, your higher self is there with you the whole journey to guide you through the different challenges in this life path, whereby it's a blueprint your higher self would know and see, and then you wouldn't know yourself, right? So yeah, your higher self is always there with you. And yes, one thing, last but not least, your higher self, again, with the compassion and love, that unconditional love and compassion that your higher self would have for you, it means that your higher self wants you to also embrace yourself and love yourself and accept yourself for who you are, right? One of the very key challenges that people face when they are starting to awaken spiritually, I think one of the core tandem of why we do shadow work is because there is a big part of ourselves that we do not love. It could be our past. It could be our inability to overcome a trauma. It could be literally remembering some kind of bad memory in our past that we could not let go of. And already that is enough to make us not love ourselves, right? So a very big part of our healing process is us aligning and receiving advice from our higher self in the area of self-love and self-care. Okay, so now since we have discussed a whole lot about who the higher self is, traits of your higher self and what your higher self wants to do for you, I'm sure what you guys will be thinking would be, okay, then how do I talk to my higher self? Why is it that I don't often feel that connection or advice coming in when I sorely need it? Which means why am I blocked from communicating with my higher self? Or who's blocking me? Okay, the answer is you. You are blocking yourself, okay? So I'm getting there. You are blocking yourself through things that you do and things that you did not do. First and foremost, I'm not joking when I say this world is very limiting. Because we are deliberately put here, not given a memory that not given a memory that of our past life, not given a memory that we are actually powerful, that we have abilities that we are born with, not given knowledge and memory that we have easily a spiritual team that works with us and has our best interests. We are literally left in the cold, okay? It's a very Five of Pentacles kind of energy. Okay, we're very left in the cold. We're very alone, okay? And we have to take on all kinds of learnings and challenges since young and grope in the dark to figure out for ourselves and get to where we are. And of course, along the way, we take a lot of beatings. Metaphorically, we take a lot of beatings. Some people really do take a lot of beatings physically. Okay, but what I'm trying to say is we are simply as lost as it gets. Okay, and that means that more often than not, our way to secure our feelings, our way to soothe our feelings is to feel secure in the company of this 3D world and whatever it gives us. The problem is that we rely too much on what we have around us, and if we do not have those resources at the time of our need, we are also quite lost. And more often than not, the ego comes in, the ego takes over, your impulses take over, and shit will hit the fan. So that's one thing. Over-reliance on whatever resources we gather in this three-dimensional reality. Now, second thing, overthinking. And I think many people will agree. We are all trying to hustle our way through this world as well, whether it's in study or work or in relationship or anything at all, even a casual day out on a weekend. Kind of like I see a lot of people just hustling everything in life. Even trying to get on the elevator is a hustle for them. Or like trying to buy groceries in the supermarket. You know what I'm saying? Like people are just losing their shit everywhere. And I don't know why, but yes, the world is kind of rough right now. So when people are very deeply entrenched in the base emotions and like, it's like a diet. It's like a diet. Okay, I think this is a much better description. Imagine if all these chaotic emotions and allowing ourselves to be lost in extremely heightened emotions and senses are almost non-stop. Like when you are engaging in a conversation with a friend, you get overexcited in gossip. When you are hanging out with a partner, or hanging out with a date, you lost yourself to the over intention of wanting to impress that person, or you're not allowing yourself to be vulnerable and pure, but rather you want to You want to strategize how to gamify this dating situation. And it's the same, you want to strategize and you want to gamify any kind of relationships you have. And then the hustle, basically being anybody who is trying to make a name for themselves, trying to establish a career, trying to establish prosperity and abundance in life, is non-stop trying to think of what to do next. What should I do now? What should I do next? What should I do 10 days from now? What should I do 10 months from now? Okay, so all these over planning, over worrying, when your mind is so full of these things, you cannot hear your higher self. Very simple. Because your higher self exists in the spiritual realm, exists in a realm that is already not the perceivable one that you're in, it takes an extra effort to quiet your mind, release all tension and intentions, have no agenda, which is why meditation is so important. I'll come to that point. But basically, the over-clutter and the over-chatter in your mind and the overdoing in your person is just never gonna give you a chance to communicate with your higher self. And then one more thing. Lack of self-love and self-worth. Lack of self-belief. Because when you do not love yourself for who you are, and I'm not saying it's your fault, okay? A lot of people get that because when they're younger, they are being shoved into every different lane to be told they are this, they are that, they are not this, they are not that, they can do this, they cannot do that. People learn how to love themselves less. And because of that, and because of lack of self-belief, you start to disassociate with your higher self. Because your higher self is the personification of your truth. Your higher self is the embodiment of your true essence, your authentic essence, your intention, your purpose, your alignment with consciousness, So if you disassociate with that, you disassociate with your higher self. And you close the doors. Metaphorically, you close the spiritual doors. You hang up the spiritual phone on your higher self, you cut off that line, you don't allow your higher self to communicate with you. Just so you know, in the spiritual realm, the spiritual team, including your higher self, is always there saying a lot of things at a lot of times, at a lot of moments in your life. Always there trying to say something to you. They are not silent. They are there. They say things to you. But of course, it's at a frequency you can't hear. And to allow yourself to open the channels, to hook up all the phone lines, to make sure that you are at that level where you can hear all the messages you're meant to hear, it has to come from your willingness to release the overthinking, the ego, the lack of self-belief, to release, and let go. You have to purify yourself into a zone where you're able to elevate your vibration to the level of tuning in to that spiritual channel. Okay, I think this one is quite insidious. I did not think about this for a while, but I realized, this is extremely important. Misguidance. Again, I think your spiritual team are gonna always be with you, just as mine has always been with me, to guide you back into the correct path, because it's all about purpose alignment and things like that. Of course, then if your doors are closed, you cannot hear. So in the instance of misguidance, is if you might have entered into a situation where somebody you know, or a teacher, mentor, any kind of authoritative figure in perhaps even an organization or institution, okay, might come across as somebody that you respect and you listen to, giving you guidance, giving you wisdom and teachings, and anything that might indoctrinate you into a set of beliefs. And if you do, get yourself indoctrinated into the set of beliefs that is not for your highest good, not aligned with your growth, your spiritual growth, and somehow it's also insidious and trying to manipulate or make use of you, you are in the process of surrendering, or might already have surrendered a fair bit of your sovereignty to that person or organization or institution. And when you're in that space, it is the loosely coined losing oneself. Okay, it is like a situation of losing oneself, and thereby it really makes you not open, because your whole heart and mind is sold and given to the devotion of whoever is giving you these guidance and wisdom. Innocently, I know you probably want to learn. Of course, you are willing to learn, but if unfortunately enough you are taking advice and guidance from the wrong source that is misguiding you, misleading you, and you are so deep in the quicksand, you're so deep in it that you can't get out, and you do not even know that you are in, then your doors are closed to receiving actual wisdom and guidance from your higher self. So there. These are the different things that can block you from communicating with your higher self. So with all that said, we want to start practicing and giving ourselves the best chance to be the most transcended version of ourselves from this reality, and to get on this pathway. There is practice, and there is focus, and most of all, it takes discipline. It takes discipline, I'm not gonna lie. And I know that what I'm gonna drop here might be daunting for a lot of people. First thing I'm gonna say, tools or practices that can help you get closer to your higher self, plus anyone else in your spiritual team, okay, is meditation. I know there is different school of thoughts when it comes to meditation, but of course the most original, basic, and pure form of meditation is just sitting there observing one point of focus and getting into a zone where you do not remember or feel attached to your three-dimensional body anymore, because then you would be more drawn into the other realms. Your soul will be able to transfer into the other realms, thereby communicating with spirits that are waiting to communicate with you in the other realms. Okay? That is really the purest way of meditation, and my best advice if you want to get started and start training yourself or practicing. Now, another way of communicating with your higher self, just so you know, it's not as though every time you ask a question, you get an answer right away. So journaling is very good, because what happens is that if you could have any thoughts at all and any questions at all about anything, you can write it down. Because once you write it down, it's a form of reinforcement to your subconscious that there is this issue, but you don't so much as actively worry about it in the front of your brain, because that's very conscious. You write it down and sort of like let it go. But you did write it down already, so it registers in your memory and your intention. And then there will be, maybe give it a while. Divine timing is important. Your higher self can come into you at the time it fits, or possibly even in dreams, to give you a message, to help you, guide you along. Other ways of connecting with the higher self is through your creative expression. Because when you are creatively expressing yourself, it is also your way of aligning and connecting with your true self, your authentic self, your unhindered, unfiltered version of yourself. So when you are in a form of creative expression, it could be drawing, it could be singing, it could be songwriting, it could be dancing, it could be playing a musical instrument. It could be any kind of hobbies or sports, in fact. So if you're not doing any of these things to want an intention to receive feedback from the external world, but rather you're just doing these things to creatively express yourself just for yourself and your enjoyment, it makes it easier for your higher self to come into your awareness and communicate with you. So just to recollect, connect more with your higher self. The work starts with you. Take time, you will get there. Do not be impatient. The more you practice, the more the messages will come in, and the more your eyes will open to realize the kind of path that you're taking is it's all for your highest good, and then you become aligned. And yeah, the whole thing of reconnecting with your true self and your psychic power all starts from your groundwork, which is your connection with your spiritual team, including your higher self. And gradually, you will also know how to build a system of communication with your higher self. That is something I will get into in another video. I will talk about synchronicities. I will talk about how to build rapport with your spiritual team, building trust, and things like that. So stay tuned for other videos regarding this subject. I hope what I have talked about today has been helpful for you in your spiritual awakening journey and for you in discovering your communication with your spiritual team. Until the next time, take care and goodbye.